We had a classic game of two halves in Murrayfield between Scotland and France. My name is Mark. Let's talk rugby. At the kick-off, Bougarit knocks on, and Scotland, they've got a scrum. They win a penalty from that after a couple of resets. Bamba is pinged for popping up. Russell opens the scoring from the tees, 3-0 to Scotland. France then strike off a poor Scotland kick. So, in the first half, Scotland, they were kicking downfield, but wasn't really much pressure. And with this one, France run it back to get the ball out to Gaëtan, who he breaks down the wing. Then they put it back inside through the hands. You got Biali, nice involvement from him onto Jalabert, and then Coulot goes over to score. And it really was a devastating counter-attack. It's converted for 7-3 to France. For a while then, it's back and forth, both teams looking to attack. Biari, I think he was very lucky to escape a card when he puts a high hit on Ben White. It looked like on the replays that probably should have been a yellow and not just a penalty. But then from there, Van der Merwe puts in a good covering tackle on Mo Fana. Scotland under a little bit of pressure, but Van der Merwe did really well. Like Mo Fana looks to have gotten on the outside, but he pushes him into touch. But the pressure does tell from France. They get quick ball and allows Biari to go between two defenders. I think it was like Fagerson and somebody else, but he goes over to score on his debut. Jalabert converts this one from out wide. It's 14-3, and France really look like they're in control. We then have a high tackle from MacLeod on Van der Merwe, and that allows Scotland to kick to the corner, and they're looking for some kind of response. They're attacking at pace, and Kinghorn gets close out on the left wing, but there's no real support. They get pushed back, and then Xander Fagerson gets pinged for clearing out beyond the ruck. Scotland then lose Ben White, and he's replaced by Horn. I don't know whether it had anything to do with the high hit that he suffered earlier. He didn't go off for any HIA though after the hit. We then have a Scotland break, gets called back for a forward pass, but some of the players continue on, including Van der Merwe, who runs on the outside and goes over to dot down, and it's only then that he realises that the play has actually been called back. He thought he actually scored. Scotland win another scrum penalty after that, and it's about the only area where it looks like they're on top at this stage. We then have Gilchrist claims the line out after they kick it up the line, but then Bonahay comes right through the middle, and France are able to turn it over in the maul. France then win a penalty from this scrum, and that was actually their first scrum penalty of the game. For most of the game, Scotland seemed to be on top in that area, at least when the numbers were even. Woki then adds to France's total. He goes over with the clock in the red. We had successive infringements from Scotland, and it allowed France to kick to the corner. From there, then they're picking and going, and Woki dives over to score. Jalabert converts this one as 21-3, France at half time. Scotland into the second half, they got more zip about them at the start of the half. They're going from wing to wing, really stretching that French defence. We have some good carries from Van der Merwe, and it gets them into the 22. We have a cross kick from Russell, and Graham just about gets there ahead of Dumortier. He dots it down. We have a TMO check to confirm whether he knocked it on or not, but they're happy with it. So Russell converts from the touchline. We're at 21-10, and Scotland starting to build some momentum. They're really holding onto the ball a lot as well, and not really allowing France to build on what they had in the first half. Scotland, though, do infringe at the restart and allows France to kick to the corner, but this comes to nothing as Scotland defence hold them out. Scotland are then come up the other end, and they're on the French line. Bugarito gets over the ball to win a penalty, and it feels like at this stage the next score could be crucial. We then have a high clear out shoulder to head from Xander Ferguson on Bugarit. Ferguson gets himself a yellow card, but it's an off-field review. Straight away I thought that looks like a red. Bugarit, I know he got hit in the head, but he seemed to kind of, I'm not going to say like histrionics, but he seemed to absolutely make sure that people saw that it happened. Like he seemed to like jump on the ground or whatever, but it was like, as I said, I felt it was a red straight away, having seen the actual hit. I'm not sure what he did afterwards was needed though. But then from here then, Ferguson, he's off for the 10 minutes with the off-field review. Scotland start up the pace in the second half, and they're forcing penalties at the breakdown. They worked to win a few meters, and then Schumann gets over to score. There was good work from Kinghorn, Ashman and Graham earlier on the move, all, making good runs and making good ground. Russell converts this one for 21-7, and I really just feel like Scotland are coming back with huge momentum in their favour. Before we restart though, Ferguson's yellow card is upgraded to a red, so Scotland down to 14 for the rest of the game. Scotland though, they continue to keep coming forward despite that numerical disadvantage. They get themselves a penalty advantage, but at the time it seemed like maybe they didn't need it, because Horn puts in a lovely cutout pass over to Kinghorn, and Kinghorn I felt was excellent for the whole game. He goes over and dots down, but then we have a TMO check because Darcy Graham knocked on earlier on in the move, so we come back for that penalty advantage that they did need after all. They kick that to the corner. They can't get over, but they win themselves under a penalty, and I feel like it must be close to a warning for France because of just the sheer number of penalties they're giving away in the 22, and especially close to their line. Scotland kick to the corner. They go to the maul. They maul over. Dave Cherry splinters off, and he goes over to score. It was a very impressive maul from Scotland there. Russell hits the post with the conversion, but it's 22-21, and Scotland now are in front. From here then, falling behind seems to spark France back into life, and they start applying a little bit of pressure in attack. They had none of the ball in the last 10 or 15 minutes, but now they realise that they've got to get some kind of response. Scotland, though, do manage to force a turnover in their own 22, and Kinghorn, they kick it down the field, it's kicked back up, and Kinghorn takes a spectacular mark there to lift the stage. He kicks away. France then trying to come back, but they get pinged for crossing, and Scotland are able to get back into the French half. And it feels like, the inexperienced French side are kind of losing their way a little bit, because if they had been just a little bit more careful, it felt like they were coming back to the point where they might be able to force a penalty themselves and maybe get themselves back in front. Instead, Scotland win a penalty for playing the 9 by the French, and France do finally get that warning for the number of penalties given away, but Russell makes it 25-21 from the tee. Scotland, from there, they're looking to run the clock down, but they drop the ball in a maul. They give France a chance that they didn't look like creating themselves. France win a penalty after that, and it's now Scotland who are losing their composure. France kick to the corner. Scotland, initially, they drive the maul back, and France break off. They win another penalty advantage. Kinghorn then beats Biarri to a kick in behind, so we come back for the penalty. France off for the scrum, trying to tie in those forwards and create space to get over. We have a couple of resets. They win another penalty at the scrum. Now Dulin comes in and decides that they're actually going to kick to the corner instead of sticking with the scrum. So from there then, They set up the maul. Scotland drive the maul back. The maul splinters. You have a group of French that surge towards the line, but they don't actually have the ball. The ball is back with the other group who recycle it. They bring it in field, but then Rory Darge, who was excellent last week as captain against Italy, he's on the field now as a sub. He gets over the ball. He wins the penalty, and that is the end of the game. It's 25-21 full time to Scotland. France, for such an inexperienced side in that first half, absolutely played Scotland off the pitch, but then Scotland did really well to come back. And what Scotland have compared to what I'm jealous as an Irish fan of this Scotland team is they have that ability to come back at teams. Even if they go like 20 points behind or wherever, they're still able to muster that comeback. It's something I haven't seen Ireland being able to do in a very long time, but Scotland, we've seen them on multiple occasions being able to come back. Sometimes they come back and then the other team still come over the top of them, but they give themselves a chance. And I think that's going to be very crucial in the Rugby World Cup, to be able to do that, facing that adversity with just 14 men, and to be able to take the game by the scruff of the neck and get that comeback and come over the top of France. For the French, like I thought some of the debutants, somebody posted in my on my preview that Gaelton and Baye Biari were both very exciting players who were kept back from the World Cup under 20s, specifically for preparation for the World Cup run-up, and that they would both shine, and they both really did shine. I thought they were both very impressive. I thought Jalabert was good as well. Coulot at 9-2, and then Woki coming back into the side was great. I thought Bouguereau was excellent for them as well. For Scotland, I thought Kinghorn getting in there and being kind of a second receiver and a second playmaker as well worked really well for them. He could distribute and he could run the ball as well. Finn Russell, I thought, was very good. His kicking game, not so good in the first half, but I think that's the whole team. Like, it wasn't just the kicking, it was the chasing as well. Darcy Graham was excellent. So was Van der Merwe. I thought Tuipulotu was a bit quiet in the centres. Hugh Jones had some involvements, but not so great. Thought Gilchrist was very good in the second row as well. Cherry when he came on too. So both teams had a lot of kind of players putting their hands up for Rugby World Cup inclusion. Thought Horn as well for Scotland when he came on was good too. And I'm not sure that either team will be too disappointed with how the game has gone. Obviously Scotland wouldn't have wanted to have conceded so many points early on, and that's something for them to work on, but they're working on that from the point of view of such an excellent comeback win. So they're going to be on a high from that. I think a lot of the French players, because it was obviously a pretty much second string French team, a lot of those younger players are just going to be, I think, G'd up by the performance that they put in the game. So I don't think they lose too much of that either, and they've gotten tons of experience into those players that didn't have that many caps between them at the start of the game. So where does this leave the teams going into the Rugby World Cup? Well, I think for Scotland, if they lost the game, if they continued in the second half the way they did in the first half, then there would have been huge questions over their team going. It would have been similar to Ireland before the 2019 World Cup. People will be wondering, have they peaked? Are they in major trouble now for the Rugby World Cup? But that comeback now just completely reframes that, and now we're looking at a strength of this Scotland team coming to the fore. I think that leaves them in a good position going into that Rugby World Cup, where Ireland and South Africa have to take this Scotland team seriously. We as an Ireland fan, we can't just think it's between us and South Africa to win the group. There are three major powers in that group, and then you got Tonga, who could be, didn't do that well against Samoa, but they still could be a decent force in the group too. For France, I think they're just going to shrug this off, but they will want to, get a couple of wins under the belt before the tournament kicks off as well. So expect a much stronger selection from them in their next game.